What about Conan? Conan's the guy who these days it feels like he has 42 jobs. He works with every pro wrestling promotion under the sun, except WWE. He had a brief little run there a long time prior to this, but
Yep.
never pops up again. Why do you think that is?
I think his first run was considered less than successful. And sometimes when creative makes a miscue, they blame it on the talent. And I think Carlos, great friend of mine, was kind of subjected to that. Carlos has got a great mind. He's very, very intelligent. His father's a lawyer, and he's a great liaison. If you want to be diversified and you're going to increase your Latino populace in your company, it's hard to beat him as your guy to talk to talent and work out finishes and things of that nature. But that's a story there. I just think that his first deal, was the mass deal he had, I don't know, it didn't work. And so instead of just saying, well, it was an ill-fated idea, the talent did his job, we just didn't do ours. I never heard that discussion made in that regard. So, and WWE missed a good guy there. They missed a guy that could have been a real contributor.
It feels weird that he's never even been back to work behind the scenes. I mean, you guys gave shit gimmicks to guys like Glenn Jacobs that, didn't get over, but he still had an opportunity to come back and try something different. And eventually it hit. And clearly that happened for Conan, in WCW, where he had a much different presentation than Max Moon or whatever silliness was tried with Titan. But behind the scenes, to your point, if he is this well-respected, great mind for the biz, it feels like, man, there would have been a spot for him somewhere. Do you think he just wasn't a WWE type guy? It just wasn't.
Maybe polished, but that's the thing about it. Until you get to know the guy, you don't realize just how intelligent that he is. And I don't think anybody took the time to get to know Charles. I'd give him about 3 names here. His real name's Charles.
Sure.
I call him Carlos. He told me on the cruise last year, my friends call me Carlos JR. I said, okay, Carlos. We bonded right there. I'm his friend now. He's my friend. And I am very proud of that friendship. But he has a lot to offer any company, because not so much in the ring anymore.
Sure.
But his mind. He's a play caller. And he can help call good plays and help make stars better, all stars. But certainly he can communicate best with many of the young Latino stars, because many of them grew up idolizing him. That's like these kids at Adam Cole, those guys at NXT. Those guys talk about how great it is to have Shawn Michaels around. Guess why? He's a great teacher, and they grew up idolizing him.
Right.
So he doesn't have to convince them that what he's telling them is the right thing to do. They know it's the right thing to do because they've seen him do it and execute it and be successful. So the same thing holds true for Conan and his luchador friends. So yeah, good guy, man. And like you said a while ago, he does seem like he's got about 100 jobs. He doesn't lack for work.
No, I mean, that's the thing. He's working with literally every promotion but WWE in some capacity. Let's talk about Sable. Wade Keller would report that Playboy has settled its lawsuit brought by the WWF over the use of the name Sable in promoting Rena Miro's second photo spread. Playboy was said to have made an undisclosed cash payment to the WWF and will provide some free advertising and royalties from future sales of the issue. And in September, a federal judge ruled that the magazine was wrong to use the WWF trademark moniker Sable in promoting the issue after Miro was no longer associated with the WWF. What do you remember about this? This is another weird deal where, Sable's out of here, but we're still dealing with it.
Oh, big old pissing contest. Probably was a lack of communication. Could have probably solved all those issues without having to have a lawsuit and have legal fees and bad publicity, if you want to perceive it to be that way. At WWE, we were right all along in that deal. There was I think Playboy just thought that they didn't do their due diligence. They thought that because one of their former stars is on the cover of Playboy, that was going to be good for our business. And that may have been right on that deal. It's just the fact that simply legally, they didn't have the right to utilize the trademark owned by WWE. Arena did not own Sable. WWE owned Sable. So if you're going to use our character name, you need to pay us something. And so they worked it out, and I think that settlement was done pretty damn quick. I don't think Playboy, I think they realized the error of their ways. But here's the other thing about that. She sold, it's like that lady in that commercial, my she shed burnt down, Sheila. I think that
records. She set records.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you guys' association with Playboy would continue for years and years. I mean, I think you had folks appearing in it as late as like 08. So, the partnership would continue. Something that didn't continue though, is the WWF nightclub. We should mention that it opened around this same time, and Wade would report that, the festivities started at 6:30 on a Wednesday, and the entrance to the party was by invitation only, but it included all of the company employees and their families and sponsors and their families. And of course the local media and celebrities. And there's lots of, traffic siphoned off, where people can sort of gather around the area where they're not invited. They just want to sort of be around. There's an open bar and catered food, and it's a who's who. Of course, the McMahon family's there, and you're there, and Jericho's there, and Angle's there. What do you remember about this, this big idea that ultimately we know wound up not being a successful one?
The sad part about the idea was that it should have made money. I think it did make money for a little while. The general manager of the club, was caught embezzling a lot of money. Went to Rikers Island, had an extended stay there. So there were issues in management, which failed the situation. Great location. Hey, the location is still hanging and banging. It's just under another name. Here you are downtown New York City or Times Square. It just had bad management. But I think the concept, the idea, unless the rent and everything was so prohibitive that it was never going to be successful. I don't know that. But I think the management of it and then losing all that capital, that cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars before they realized it. But I remember it being a real fun party atmosphere. People put on their little party clothes and are having fun. And it was a night off, and being in New York, hot and cold running limos. And like you said, the media was there. There were stars there. I remember Joan London was there from Good Morning America. She's a big fan, still is. And the late Luther Vandross was there. And Luther loved the guys. And he loved wrestling. The women loved Luther because I remember Luther talking to my wife, Jan, about fashion. And the fact that they're both passed now, as we know. But Jan was a big, Louis Vuitton was one of her big brands. And Luke, they called him, had knowledge of all that stuff as much as any woman. And so he became one of the favorites of the divas and of some of the wives, including mine at that time. But it was a fun time, Conrad. Festive, fun, amazing food. The open bar never hurts anything.
Oh.
3 or 4 drinks, 3 or 4 trips to the open bar makes all food taste better. So, but it was fun. It was a fun, festive party night, kind of simple, little exposure for the guys. But I think everybody had a good time. I had a great time that night because I knew that my talents were enjoying themselves. It looked like another nice investment for the company. And I had a 30-minute car ride home. So it was pretty cool. And by the way, the next morning, I was in my office at 9 a.m.